Are you Bill?
That's cool. Kay, can you introduce me?
Good evening. This is a special call meeting of the Mayor and City Council and the Historic Preservation Commission regarding the boundaries of the Historic District of Roswell. There's been a lot of discussion up to this point. This is one of the required steps in this process. There is an item on the council agenda tonight that will be convened at 7 p.m., and this is the precursor to that. So with that, I will hand it over to Brad Sullivan.
Thank you, Kay. This is a change in the boundaries. This is the blue line is the complete boundary historic district. The only area we're dealing with are 3 lots at the end of the web. It's required by, it takes up...
We should be changing other spots in this boundary. We've talked about.
Well, why don't you add that?
Okay, thank you, Mike. As a requirement, this has been reviewed by the HPC. They have recommended it. It has also been reviewed by the state. They support it in changing the historic boundaries. We're recommending the ordinance be read at the first reading, at the meeting later this evening, and the second reading would be held on May 29th. These are the 3 lots that are being proposed to be included in the district. This is the existing lots. This has been already removed from the property, so they are vacant pieces of property. This is an aerial view showing the location of the Webb Street in this location. Staff would recommend that the Mayor and Council and Historic Preservation Commission move that this be placed on the agenda to amend the boundaries. If you have any further questions.
I have some questions.
Councilman Lawrence.
Can you go back to the, right there? Well, go back one more. If we're taking in 79, 83, and 85,
Yep.
why not include the little corner south of 79? Or is the resident doesn't want it, or
Correct.
has it come up for discussion at all?
I believe the current owner of the current property that's asking to be brought in has approached them, and they are not interested at this time in being brought into this boundary.
Okay, I'm just curious. My other question is, we're going to this effort to change the historic boundary. For several years, we've talked about extending it out Woodstock from Canton Street. Why didn't we include that in the process? And can we amend it now, or start looking at it, or is it going to delay this too long? Or I mean, we've talked about it for I don't know how many years, because we've been spot zoning out there, and I've said multiple times we need to take a look at it totally coming into the historic district, and all of a sudden we're changing the historic district, and that never came up for discussion.
Related to this particular application, it did not. We were approached by the landowner of this property, had to do a report that went to the HBC, then submitted to the state for their review. Once that report came back, we were processing the amendment at this point. Other amendments to the historic boundaries would go through the same process. If we're looking to extend it out Woodstock, we would want to know to what extent, contact those landowners to make sure that they were agreeable, and then probably get direction from Mayor and Council that that's something that they would favor us taking forward. Yes, it's too late to include that in this process.
In other words.
What?
Any other questions?
Yeah, question.
Any other questions from council? Councilman Clark. I'm going to ask you.
Now, I noticed it has already gone to the state
Yes.
historical. What group did it go to?
Historic.
The State Historic Preservation Office requires a DNR.
So why did it go there? Is that just the procedure?
That's the
comes to us
procedural
last?
process that it goes through. They review the written report from staff and the recommendations from HPC and provide us their recommendation.
And the genesis of this is that these 3 landowners want it,
Yes.
and they want it because
They want the availability of the historic district to control the property around them, as well as what they could be able to build on the property under the HR overlay.
Thank you.
Any other questions of council? Do we have anybody in the audience who has any questions? Before we go to the audience, are we asking for a motion to expand?
There's going to be a public hearing at the 7 o'clock meeting
Yeah.
on the actual ordinance, which people are able to speak at that point, too.
But as far as action taken at this special call meeting, what action are y'all asking us to take other than having
Just that part of the ordinance requires that you get together and discuss the issue.
All right, so, but we're not proposing anything. All right, well, any further comments or questions from council before we open it up for a public hearing? Before we go on, does the rec commission, or not the rec commission, the historic commission have any questions or comments? I assume, does this have the support of the historic commission?
Yes.
Okay, does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? If so, if you raise your hand, come forward, stand up, and give us your name. Are we taking this down on a public record?
Yes. We've got-
There's a microphone over here.
The mics are there, so...
There's one right there.
We'll have a...
Do I just
They're all around.
project? Yes.
There's a
microphone out there.
That's what mine's so friendly.
Okay, great. So I just learned about this recently, so it's very interesting for me because I actually looked at purchasing that Lot 79 a few years ago. So I'm particularly interested in why the current owner is interested in making it historic, because I was specifically interested in this property because it was not, because I did have the flexibility to do what I wanted to do on this property. Because it was my understanding that the historic designation makes it more restrictive. And if you were there, there's nothing to stop you from following the historic guidelines. So if you weren't in the district, you could continue to uphold the spirit of the district even though you weren't in it by being on this lot. Now, I'm interested in why we can just have a landowner here with an empty lot near a historic district just request that they be added to the historic district, because this actually, I'm not really sure what's happening here. I understand that these three lots are owned by the same person, and they might be owned by the development that built next to it. So perhaps they're interested in expanding the historic district here to expand that development and then claim that they're in the historic district as an added value for those properties. I'm not sure, but this seems like a lot of time and expense to add 3 vacant lots to the historic district when we can look at simply adding this whole area for the better good of the city if that's what we're trying to do. I mean, it makes sense to me that if we're worried about development near the historic downtown area, that we could just simply close off that little annex peninsula there and make it historic.
Respond to the question as I understand it.
Mr. Mayor, could we have his name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Eric Schumacher, 145 Prospect Street.
Thank you.
I think the council this is a voluntary entry. The council does not wish to impose this. The historic district has never been imposed on any area that was opposed to it. So it's more of a, if you want to enter, it's voluntary. As far as the intentions of the property owner, Brad, do we have any idea what the proposed use of this property?
Residential. I mean, I'm sure they'll look at
Now,
town.
there are different rules. Brad, if you would go over briefly the different rules as far as the type of development that could go on a historic district property versus the property is currently zoned. What could the change be, potentially, in usage?
You're probably looking at something similar to what exists in this residential area, in this location.
Could you develop that under the existing zone?
I don't believe so because it's single family.
It's currently zoned R2?
Right, I believe so.
So this would be more units per acre than R2?
Correct.
So there is an economic benefit attached to the intended use.
So I guess, again, I'm interested in knowing what the current process is for this, because it seems like we're dealing with 3 lots here. This is kind of a lot of overhead. Perhaps, that the process should be, like, if we have a lot of landowners around, we do this once a year or something, because I could just see, if we're just doing this for one person for 3 lots, what kind of business are we going to be in over time, adding a lot here or there when people just want to increase the value of the property by adding, what,
But it's similar to
R4?
it's similar to the zoning process, and any property owner in Roswell who wishes to rezone his property can petition the city to rezone the property. So this is really the equivalent of a rezone.
Okay. I'm not seeing anything particularly historic about these properties if there aren't any houses on them. Unless there is an event or something that may have happened on these lots.
The historic district does not require a historic building on the property. It really has to do with the change in the use in the zoning category. So look upon this as a change in the zoning category.
Okay. Okay, so we're just interested in higher density in this area?
Well, when the historic district was first put together, these homeowners did not want to be in the historic district. And that's why that peninsula is there. They
Okay.
did not want to. So they were left out. Cities, as Mayor said, city's not going to force anybody to be within the historic district. Now this landowner wants to put those lots in the historic district. Nobody else around there, from my understanding, wants to do that yet. So that's why it's here.
Okay. One more comment. I just have concerns about density in this area from a traffic perspective. We have a serious parking issue downtown. I think the parking issue is expanding with more topics tonight, but, this area isn't capable of handling higher density down in this area. I don't know if we have any residents in the audience tonight that would like to speak to that, but thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Come forward if you'll give us your name and address, please.
While she's coming up, can I ask a procedural question?
Sit next to your council members up Polito and microphone people.
Procedural question. This is a hearing, or what is this, right now?
Yes, sir.
Ask Mr. Davis.
This is just a public hearing for HBC and mayor and council.
This is a required public hearing?
Yes.
And we can take action the same day? Later, at the next meeting?
And we'll have another hearing when we get there.
I think it's a joint meeting is the distinction here. You have a joint meeting of the Historic Society, Historic Preservation Commission, and the council.
Did you just say we have to have another joint meeting before the second? Oh, okay. That's what you... Then second reading.
Okay, my question is, okay.
For the record, please, just say your name.
Oh, okay. My name is Evelyn Anderson, and my mother is a homeowner on this street. She's right in between those 3 lots, the one that's empty. And my question is, okay, you said this can be zone R2, right? So they
Current
can...
zone.
Okay, so he can build whatever.
Single-family home.
Single family or condos? Single family.
Right now, but if he goes
Okay.
in the historic district, that changes.
He can build condos, right?
Well, Brad, what could he do in the historic district? What would
You
be the
could build a
maximum?
multifamily development. It depends on the acreage and the size, whether he could get more than one unit on it or not.
Okay, but he would be allowed to do that in a single-family atmosphere, because all the other houses on the street is single-family houses. So,
These are all single-family homes, correct?
yes. So that's allowed to be done?
These are still zoned R2,
Mm-hmm.
so these can only build single-family homes. These developments coming into the historic district would be allowed multifamily, the townhouse type of development,
In the midst of the single-family homes?
on the same, across the street, correct?
Okay. Okay. Those streets would not, the streets are not even wide enough to compensate that. So who would do that research? Those streets aren't so wide, you know.
This-
So who has to do, as far as the research, who has to do that? Those streets are not even capable of,
The developer who wants to make the improvements on this piece of property will have to improve the streets and the connections, improve the infrastructure to make sure that they would support what he's proposing to do.
okay, but I didn't know you could, okay, but so if he's allowed to have this declared historical, then basically he can put whatever he wants down there. If you-
Not
whatever he wants.
Yeah.
No, there are rules and regulations of what he would be allowed to do.
Now, where does your mother live? Which lot is that?
Hers is 78. So, like I said, it's right,
Would that be it?
is that
Right on the
78?
bend there? Does that look right?
Around the corner. To me, it must be across the street. Must be one of these.
Canton Street is that way, so as you're coming off Canton Street, coming down the hill.
Okay, so hers would probably be, which one is,
This one?
this one? Yeah,
Right there?
hers is probably the
Okay.
biggest one, yeah, that's hers. Okay. Okay, so has this already been approved as far as it being rezoned as historical, or not? Has it been
It will be
approved?
voted on at the meeting immediately following this.
Okay,
We're having two meetings tonight.
Okay.
I know it's confusing.
okay,
We'll have a second meeting, begins at 7. There'll be another public hearing. Following that public hearing, the council will vote on whether or not to expand the district.
okay. Now, somebody can buy up land and say, we want to be historical. It's not the whole, everybody on the street has a say-so of whether they want the whole street to be historical. It's just like a developer can buy 1 or 2 properties and say, I want my 2 properties to be historical, and he can apply for it to be historical. That's what you're saying.
Correct.
So they can buy 1 property and say, I want my 1 property to be historical, and he can apply for it to be historical.
Correct.
If it fits within the historic boundary, see, we're changing the boundary right now, but you can see there's that section was not included years ago in the historic district because the property owners didn't want them in there.
Yeah, and they still don't. But the developer that bought it wants it
Well,
now.
it's just those few.
Yeah, because that's all he owns.
Right.
So he couldn't want the rest of them if he don't own it,
Right.
because we don't.
A question. What is, I'm fine, you
You through with me?
I don't need to ask you, I'm just kind of throwing it out.
Okay.
To the right of 83, what's the street access to that lot?
This one?
Yeah.
Comes in here.
Oh, from that side, okay.
This way in.
And is there anything on that right now?
No. It's big.
But that's 2 different lots, or was that 1 lot?
I think this is detention.
Oh,
There's
okay.
detention here.
So that can't be built on?
I don't believe in this area now. Development's up in that location.
So everything from 83 to whatever that is,
Right.
Green Oak is unbuildable?
There were, on this piece of property, flats, I believe, approved in the original site plan. I believe six units that are unbuilt at this point.
Are those ones we just approved? I think those are the ones we just approved.
Do we know if that's going to be part of this next phase of assuming that?
I believe it's a separate owner at this point. I'm not sure when they're proposing to build. I know there's been some discussions of changing the flats to a townhouse development.
Hi, my name is Sandra Taylor, and I have a question. I heard something brought up about improving the streets. So does that mean that the property owners will be losing some of their property for street improvements for a wider street because the street is not that wide?
If there needs to be improvements, which will be determined by transportation for the width of the road, if there needs to be some type of right-of-way, it may come from these lots to be developed that way. Say, for instance, the existing asphalt is only 18 feet wide, and we want it to be 20 feet wide, or 24 feet wide. those types of discussions need to happen when the developer brings the improvement plans in to try to build the property.
But that would only occur on their property,
On their side,
not
right.
across the street.
Right.
Well, that's unless the developer offers to buy the right-of-way. I mean, they could do that, but we're not going to force anybody on that.
Okay, and I have a concern because the people that live in that area, they are single-family houses. This is historical. My grandfather and my great-grandfather lived there from slavery, and I feel it's unfair for a businessman to come in where there's single-dwelling houses to build condos. To me, it's all about the money. The people on the street should have some say-so about their area where they live. It's historic. My blood and tears from my forefathers and mothers lived on this property, and I feel like the business is coming in just trying to buy up the property. We want to stay where we are. We don't want to move, and we don't want condos or those properties for condos or more than one family dwellings. Why don't we have some say-so in it?
The zoning on property is ultimately a council decision. You have an opportunity to be heard, and your reasons will be listened to, but ultimately, you have rights as a property owner, and the people that own the property across the street have rights as a property owner. And the council has to determine what the zoning should be. This is a zoning question.
Ms. Teller, where do you live? Do you live on Web Street?
That's my sister. That's my mother that lives at 78.
Okay.
The one that showed. It's 78 Web Street.
So you have rights, they have rights, and it's a matter for the council to determine is it appropriate to rezone this property. That's why we're hearing from you today.
Okay, so what is the criteria for making that determination? Did the council get any input from the neighbors in the area?
That's the purpose of this meeting right now, is to get input from you and the people in the community.
Okay, because I've noticed the traffic is tremendous already, the big trucks, traffic going up and down, and I'm just so afraid, one thing, that they're going to take my mom's traffic to widen the street. That's a concern. And also, it's unfair, in my opinion, to put condos in a single family dwelling. I'm sure if you judge your own conscience, you would not want that in your area, in your subdivision or wherever you live. So I would beg you to consider the people that live on that street. The condos are bringing in money. It's not about the spirit and the past blood and tears that's been shed. It's about the dollar. So I wish you would think about your own community. How would you feel if condos was coming in across the street, beside you and behind you in your own community? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could we see that with the aerial? Is that current, or
No, the house has been removed.
that house is gone?
Yeah, that house is gone.
And the other 4 houses are still there?
Yeah.
There's more houses further down Web Street?
No, I don't believe so.
Do you have a
Bigger
broader, the one that you showed that had the condos on it?
What's that?
There's a slide in there that shows the townhouse. The next slide.
That one. So how many houses are there that have been there for a while?
These are the oldest homes. This one has been replaced within the last 5 years, I believe. I think we had a fire there, and it burnt down, and then this one was replaced.
So that's the only house on that side of the road?
Yes. This one's
Is
gone.
that, it shows Webb Street going out through the trees. Is that proposed, or what is that?
That is current right-of-way.
The city owns that right away?
The city has the right-of-way. It's not constructed to probably a little past this location right here.
So I guess the answer to the question is that there are, looks like on the south side of the road, there looks like 3 houses and then a 4th house up near Moses Street Extension.
Right.
And then one house on the opposite side, right? So
This one's been...
that house is gone, so we've got 5 houses currently in there.
Wait a minute, the one that you just pointed out, it's gone or it's still there?
That's gone.
It's gone? So we got 4 houses.
3 on the south side, 1 on the north, east corner, whatever.
4 on the south side.
Magnolia townhouses, and that goes straight up against...
a ravine and sewer lines in this area. There's a stream that comes back here.
There's been recent purchases in that area. It would be interesting to show the plot diagram in the county. Investors buying down that street.
All the way around.
So I thought there was another house or 2 down.
Hey, Brad?
Goes there today.
Brad, where's the area, is this the area where we just approved the townhouses for, is it Lee Homes? Where are those?
Yeah,
Those are those right there, those are the ones we just,
with the sidewalks.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's a big circle now. You show 57.
Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Annie Strickland, and I live on Webb Street, 57 Webb Street.
You need to speak a little louder. Okay.
My name's Annie Strickland, and I live on Webb Street, 57. Been living there all my life with my husband, raised 4 kids, and I have grandkids, and I wish to keep our property as it is. Where is it exactly?
57 is which?
57
It's
Webb
adjacent
Street.
to the Moses Street Extension. It's just west of the Moses Street Extension.
Right there?
That's it.
That one house that they were showing us,
Mhm.
on that thing.
No, she's on the south side. South side?
South side? Yeah, no, she's on the north side, it's an odd number.
That's it.
Can you show the aerial, Brad? She might...
No, she's 57,
Is down at the bottom.
Oh,
she's down there. Okay.
does that look like your house?
No?
It's the large neighborhood with the
It
fire.
has to be north.
That'll be that one. Odd numbers on that side of the
Did you
street.
just
Yeah.
rebuild it a few years ago?
Are you sure? It's just recently, we just recently built. It was burnt, and it's recently built.
Yeah, so that's you right there.
Yeah, a long time ago. So she's got, you're that one?
Yes, she said they just received it.
The one that's been rebuilt?
Yeah, because a lot of volunteers work to rebuild it.
Yes, I'd just like to know what they're gonna build around the house. Also, and Miss Blake, you know, she's an elder lady, just same as I, we raised our kids on Webb Street. And now we're gonna raise our grandkids on Webb Street. We've been here for 65 years, maybe older than some of you. And
Strickland, I understand that there's a concern about the traffic.
traffic, right,
What are your other concerns?
what's gonna be around and nearby our homes.
So I understand you're concerned about having the condos on the other side of the street.
I'm concerned about,
Somebody's concerned.
we all are.
And what is can you tell me what you're concerned about that you feel would be negative about the condos?
Well, it's just going to be a lot of traffic going in and out. And we have kids that comes
Do you have concerns other than the traffic?
other than traffic.
Traffic's your big...
Traffic, because it's going to be coming down, you know, the street already do that now.
Good. Appreciate your sharing those concerns.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
I have a question. The houses that surround it, are those 1- or 2-story houses? Are those houses 1 or 2 stories on Webb Street?
One
I want somebody who lives on Webb. Do you live on Webb? Okay. So, Ms. Strickland, is your house 1 or 2 stories?
My house,
Yeah,
is 1 story.
1 story, okay. Thank you.
5 rooms and 3 baths.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Did you ask about the tax value? I mean, the increase on taxes and what that's going to do to the house, the value of the house?
We don't know that.
That's my
If you'd
dog.
like to speak, you can come forward. Everyone will have an opportunity to speak. Just give us your name and where you live, and
Oh, okay, yeah.
we'd like to hear from you.
Emily Winters, my mother, and Strickland. I was concerned about the increase in value, property values. Her property and everybody else is around her. She's got $500,000 properties around her. Taxes I've noticed in the last couple of years have increased, taxing her out of her house and everybody else around her. And I wanted to know if there's protection against that? Is historical, is there something to grant out of that, or
No,
exempt out of that?
Zoning, the historic district zoning does not directly change the appraised value, nor does it come with any tax breaks. So, the appraised value really is determined by the Fulton County Tax Assessor's Office, and they base it upon the going price of property.
So
The plot,
it wouldn't change the value on your house unless Fulton County decides that area in general is worth more, then it might increase the value of the house. But it, just by virtue of having other houses there, doesn't change your value.
well, it did. They had a house that burned down in the neighborhood, my parents' house. We rebuilt it the same square footage. The house now is valued at almost $400,000.
Right. Because it's new.
It's brand new property, yeah,
Right.
but taxes through the roof. And that neighborhood has never had sidewalks, swimming pool, none of that, no amenities. A couple of houses burned down because there was no access to fire. You know, those kind of things, those improvements, there haven't been any improvements on that street, period. It's totally been ignored. But now, Historical Society is coming in and saying now we can go historic and we can leave it that way.
No, it's not the Historical Society.
Can we leave it that way? Because
And it's not the whole neighborhood, it's
It's
just
not.
those few lots that
there's
are,
few lots.
yeah, changing.
Question,
Would you like sidewalks?
Councilmember Price.
I mean, it's just never been. And now I've noticed that part of the community is gated and part of the community is not gated. You can't come through our neighborhood, but we can come through your neighborhood. Keep us out. But let us bring the trucks through your neighborhood and it's something, I mean, if you want to gate the neighborhood, one street, one end of the street, easement, I mean, ingress, I mean, which way can it go? I mean, can you put a gate at Webb Street as well? I mean, at the beginning, because we have...
What is shown as Camp Avenue is private property that was never dedicated to the city. It's not public property. Webb Street has always been a public road, so once it becomes a public road, it cannot be gated, but if it was never a public road, the private property does not have to necessarily open it up. You can choose to gate private property. So Camp Avenue is on private property. The city doesn't own that road. Webb Street is a publicly owned street. And although the maintenance may not have been good over the years, it was maintained by the city.
okay. Question for Brad. On that curve of Camp Avenue, on the northwest curve, on the other picture, and I think I drove by there a few weeks ago, and is there an application or construction going on there right now? Like the other picture of the overhead? That one. I know there were a bunch of trucks and things there. Are there some more units being built on that curve?
This is the detention area. There is a buildable lot here.
Speak up, Brad.
I don't believe there's under construction at this time, no.
But it's a buildable lot.
Right.
Just a question, do we have a site plan for what this may be developed as, and where the streets might be? Or is this prior to the site plan?
We've seen a site plan showing four smaller homes here, townhomes on these two lots, as well as townhomes on this lot.
Well, my curiosity is, are these townhomes on lot 83 and 85 going to be part of a gated community, or are they going to be accessed from Webb Street?
You're going to need to ask the owner of that.
From Webb Street. Thank you.
Egress, ingress, that kind of
From
thing.
Webb Street.
Yeah.
Okay? Try to get all the details. Any other comments?
Not right now. I mean,
Well,
You have
let me
another
just
meeting, sir?
explain this to you. In the public hearing, I give folks an opportunity to speak.
Okay.
Now, you will have another opportunity to speak at the next public hearing at the next meeting.
Oh.
But this will be your last opportunity to speak at this public hearing. Anyone else wish to comment? Seeing no hands up, we're going to close the public hearing. Mr. Davidson, what else do we need to achieve at this public hearing?
That is all.
Any other closing words from council members or...
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Price and I like to hear from the HPC that they're reasoning for approval of this, because I don't have any paperwork.
We'd love to hear from the HPC. What your thoughts are?
Well, as it has been discussed, the landowner made application, expressed an interest in these properties are contiguous to the historic district now. Possibly would have been in the district, virtually all of that area would probably have been in the district had the property owners not opted out. So given that they're contiguous and that they would probably have been included in the district in the beginning, had they not opted out, this is sort of like property has changed hands, they want to be in the district. I think to give them some latitude that has to do with density, different kind of development, and the Historic Preservation Commission, without opposition, approved that request. And from there, it went to the state, and now it's to you.
So, Mr. Landers, that means there was none of the neighbors that we heard from tonight was at your commission meeting?
No, those were, of course, advertised, but no one came, there's been no expression to HPC about any opposition. So what you're hearing tonight, I'm hearing for the first time.
Okay.
Okay, let me ask you, we didn't know about the meeting, so how could we attend the meeting?
I think the mayor closed the public hearing, so...
I don't think the question so much was the decision of the HPC is not binding.
Right.
I think they're hearing and the council's hearing for the first time the concerns of the public. Again, you'll have another opportunity for a public hearing, and we hope all the issues will be heard before the council. I'm sure they'll all be heard and discussed, and no decision has been made yet. It's a recommendation, but it's not a binding recommendation by the Historic Preservation Commission. Anyway, the public hearing has been closed. Y'all will have another opportunity to be heard in about an hour.
Hour and a half or so.
So you'll have a chance to
way down on the
regroup and rethink this. Yes, Councilmember Epley.
A couple of the residents commented on how this area is an historic area and how a lot of them have lived there for many decades. Has there been any thought given or any research given to the property itself, to the surrounding properties, as to whether the neighborhood's considered historic, whether, how much can we impact, or should we impact that history?
Good point.
It's more than just a lot. You're kind of talking about an area, and sometimes there's historic context beyond the lot itself. And I'm just asking the question. I don't know if that's been explored or not by our staff.
It's like piecemeal in this.
I don't think anybody was included in the district. I mean, where I live in the city was originally included in the district. All of my neighbors and myself asked to be excluded. So I don't think that there was anybody included in the district that had opposition to it. And that's why these properties now, it's conjecture on my behalf, but I think that's why they were not originally included. They wanted out. They didn't want to be in it.
Well, I understand that they didn't want to be included. I'm just saying, is there some historic context that we need to consider in what goes on those lots that are to be developed because of the history of this neighborhood?
Well, you get a broader question, a philosophical question. Roswell was settled in 1838. It was incorporated in 1854, and this was part. So everything within the old boundaries of Roswell would be considered a historic neighborhood. So that's, and we have designated one part is to be recognized, and that's within the current boundaries. So if you're saying it's historic, but it should be outside the boundaries of the historic neighborhood and not protected by that historic district, it's a little, I'm not sure how you get there by saying we recognize the historic nature of it by excluding it from the historic district.
Yeah, well, I
We
guess...
don't have any other district recognized as historic neighborhoods other than the historic district.
So they would have had to go to D.C. individually to try to do something from a historical standpoint, I guess.
Or if they were included originally, there may be a
I think
different
this council needs to
perspective.
look upon this as a zoning, this is really more of a zoning decision than anything else. We all got to look at the appropriateness of this visual use from a zoning standpoint. I think you need to, I'd look at it as a zoning case. We're not declaring this historic or unhistoric, we're looking at changes and potential uses of land. Councilmember Diamond.
If this goes in the historic district, does that site plan come to us for approval?
No.
It
Goes to the HPC for approval.
And they talk about things like sidewalks and fixing the road to the right specifications.
I'd like to refer those to our experts who are sitting here at the table.
Well, that's, I guess, somebody addresses that, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at, because you're right, this is a zoning issue, but we have no information the way we normally get for a zoning issue. All we're being asked is to include it in the historic district, and and it is spot zoning, there is infrastructure issues, and we don't have any of that information. So we're just making this decision, and then it just runs from there.
You're making a zoning decision without a site plan, but I would not call it spot zoning, because if the intention is to build townhouses on it, it is with a contiguous property of townhouses. Spot zoning implies taking some use that is totally incompatible with everything around it.
Yeah, the reference being the 3 lots out of the whole street and the effect there. I understand what you're saying, and I know it's contiguous, and I know that zoning is behind it. I didn't mean it in that direction.
So the decision tonight, then, is to whether include it or not in the historic district. It has nothing to do with the site plan and what's eventually going to be built there, potentially. That's a whole separate meeting that'll occur later.
But on the other hand, Rich, if this is approved, the uses are approved, and the Historic Preservation Commission is not determining uses, it's looking at the architecture. And the city will be looking at all the other development rules that go along, including your streets and sidewalks and stormwater.
Infrastructure.
So,
Councilmember Wynn.
so what I'm hearing, Mayor, is that if we do not have this move forward, then this developer would have to come to the city council to change his zoning from R2 to whatever he wants to do.
But he has come to this council to change something.
Well, that's not what I'm hearing, but if we include these 3 lots in the historic district, then the HPC, then they have every right under the historic district to come in and do townhouses, but y'all look at mass and exterior. You don't look what they're building, you just look at the mass. You don't look at uses, am I correct? So if we put these 3 lots in the historic district, then we could actually have multifamily, townhouses, anything that's compatible with the historic district overlay in that area. I mean, they can still build single family, which I don't think they would do. But, so that's my understanding? Okay, thank you.
Ray, can you go ahead and comment how the streets and infrastructure stuff would be addressed if it went to the HPC?
As with any HPC application for a certificate of appropriateness, staff reviews it internally for zoning and issues such as that with the zoning ordinance. Staff also routes every application to all the other departments such as transportation, public works, etc. They can make any conditions they want per the approval. So when I write my staff report, I would put in there if transportation wants street improvements, or if we want sidewalks or enlarged water pipes, we would put those conditions in with the staff report, and those conditions would go to make HPC for approval.
But the HPC would approve them or not approve them?
I've got a sort of a more general question. If you'll go back to that site plan, the earlier one showing the extended street, the one that shows this potential right-of-way that goes down. That one. I'm just trying to look ahead here, guys, while we're thinking about this. Because given the interest in Canton Street and the interest in walkable communities in the Canton Street area, I would anticipate somebody wanting to develop this property down the road.
We have discussed this area particularly, which is the end of Gould.
So there's potential development coming in there.
Correct, for this area. And our discussions have been, how do we get a road this way and connect Webb? I mean, that has been brought to the council before when this complex down here wanted an extension. So we're dealing with some really structural topographic issues in this location because
So
there's
we're talking
streams.
about new potential roads, new potential developments, potential for Webb Street to extend down even, I know Mayor Mabry talked about it for years, to take Webb all the way down to...
No, it was supposed to be northwest going through.
I guess the bigger picture is when the council is thinking about this and when the neighborhood is thinking about this, there are some of us who would like Roswell to never change. And I think whatever happens here, I think we all have to anticipate we're probably going to be seeing changes in this community because of demand for it. So whether we do this zoning tonight on 85, 83, and 79, I think you'll all need to anticipate we're probably going to be seeing changes on Webb and Goulding Place sometime in the future.
Well, a change would have a bigger picture. You can see how it all fits together when it's done in small bits and pieces like this. You know, I mean, I agree, Webb Street, it's not wide enough now, and I'm not sure there's enough room to get it widened to be what it should be, and then cars are parking on one side of it, and it makes it even worse. So we need to address the whole issue,
Does transportation have any opinion on Webb Street and the... Transportation traffic issues.
Well, we always, certainly there's a lot of...
Steve, come on up.
Okay. I didn't know I was speaking for it.
Name and address.
Yeah, name and address. Steve Asenbrack, 11855 Mountain Laurel Drive. So, yes, I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about, connecting Webb with Coleman. Recently, as Brad pointed out, there was discussions about this new connection here. I mean, in context, at the 30,000-foot level, from a transportation standpoint, if you really want to just talk about that, Canton Street is an excellent north-south connector. We have Route 9 to the east. We really don't have anything to the west except North Coleman, which is quite a bit away from that. So we have always thought about if there was a chance for some kind of a parallel north-south connector west of Canton. And of course, the way the parcel map is, it's extremely difficult, and the topography is not in our favor. So we've kicked around a number of different ideas. Years ago, there was a concept of having Norcross head across to the west and then connecting down to Coleman, and then having Mimosa come up and tee into that. That now is off the table. We understand that.
It was supposed to go right through where Canton Walk is now.
Right. So we, transportation, are certainly support connectivity, whether that's vehicular connectivity, bicycle connectivity, pedestrian connectivity.
Well, to focus a little further, the question was, does Webb Street need to be
Improved.
widened if 85, 83, and 79 are developed for either single-family or these townhomes?
Mr. Mayor, in a case like that, a developer will come to us with a site plan, and we'll review that site plan for appropriateness, number of trips, types of vehicles, those sorts of things. Right now, Webb Street is largely a dead-end street, and while it is probably not in as good a shape as we'd like it to be, for the uses that it's seeing right now, probably fine the way it is right now.
All right, if you put in townhouses on those 3 lots, would it need to be widened?
What kind of density is that, like more? I mean, if we're talking about just a couple of extra residences on that house, I don't think it would need any type of...
A couple of extra residences if they put townhouses. I know it's partially single-family. How many units are we anticipating?
4 plus whatever townhome, so 8, 12, I don't know.
Some feeder homes in
12.
front.
12 maybe?
Then the
12.
tall townhouses.
About 12.
12, so that's 100 extra trips a day. But we'd have to look at that.
As far as the width of the street, too.
Width is substandard right now, and the horizontal curves are substandard. So it's certainly a very low-speed road right now, and I'm sure most of the residents would be fine with a low-speed road. That's correct. So I'd really need to look at it, Mayor, in context. It's a little bit hard.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, any further discussion? Again, we're not taking a vote. We'll be taking another run at this and
Take a vote now.
entertaining a motion to around, probably, meeting starts at 7. We'll probably reach this about 7:15, 7:30, maybe later. I don't know whether we're doing budget first or not. Budget first?
Well, that's the way you put the agenda together.
Unless you want to move this up.
Not necessarily. We'll see how it turns out. We're adjourned. You're welcome to come back. Later.